Just imagine the entire population of Japan's largest city has mysteriously vanished. Cats, dogs, and a slew of eerie ghosts are all that's left. What a great idea. After all, who doesn't like cats and dogs? But toss in some terrifying spirits, and we're fleeing for our lives. This is the basis for the upcoming video game, GhostWire Tokyo. Fans of the video game cannot wait for it to drop in less than a week, so stay tuned to find out all the inside details about this new action-adventure game. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. First, we have the release of GhostWire Tokyo. Since it was initially revealed in 2019, GhostWire Tokyo, the next game from the Evil Within developer Tango Gameworks and Bethesda Softworks, has been shrouded in mystery. However, just this year, Sony and Tango revealed brand new details, as well as the first extended gameplay for the upcoming PlayStation 5 exclusive, which is set to premiere on console and PC on March 25th. Tango Gameworks creator Shinji Mikami asked his employees to explain GhostWire Tokyo during a new video showcase, which received a wide range of reactions. Reiko Hiroshima, the game's character designer, described it as paranormal, while Tsuyoshi Okugawa, the game's programmer, simply described it as genuine Tokyo. In a less abstract description, GhostWire Tokyo is about a large-scale paranormal incident that occurs in Tokyo. The city's residents vanish, and a deathly fog descends upon much of the city, and it's all up to protagonist Akito and his partner KK, a spirit who inhabits Akito's body and grants him supernatural abilities to rid Shibuya of yokai, ghosts, headless schoolkids, and other supernatural creatures. Hanya, a mysterious and cruel masked figure, is attempting to stop Akito and KK. GhostWire Tokyo is a deviation from Tango Gameworks' previous work. It's not a linear survival horror game, it's a first-person spellcasting action-adventure game. There are echoes of Bethesda's previous open-world adventures and first-person shooters. Your weapons, on the other hand, are in your hands in GhostWire Tokyo, and the monsters you battle are based on Japanese stories and folklore. This game has been so highly anticipated that the fans of the video game franchise cannot wait to get their hands on it in little over a week. Now, what we know about the gameplay so far. With an 18-minute gameplay trailer already released, we got a truly in-depth look at GhostWire Tokyo's gameplay ahead of its March release. The impression of GhostWire as a supernatural game has grown stronger. Though the environment has an uncanny feel to it, this is the studio's first entry into the action-adventure genre, said one of the creators in 2020. In the trailer, we see that our protagonist appears to be wielding a variety of magical abilities through hand gestures, indicating that we'll be playing in the first person. Think of the game as more of a complicated version of Skyrim's spellcasting. In GhostWire, you can also initiate takedown moves against enemies from afar, as seen in the gameplay trailer. When foes are susceptible, their core is exposed, which you can take out with your spiritual cables to kill them, of course. And of course, certain foes are weak to specific attacks. Additionally, the game's makers state that they want the player to feel like a badass spellcasting high-tech ninja exorcist destroying innumerable demonic spirits. Thus, they picked complicated methodical hand motions as the primary weapons, rather than basic guns, to achieve this. Because the player's hands are organic extensions of the character, unlike guns, these gestures allow the players to inject a lot more movement and personality into the player action. This is a GhostWire-only system. Basically, karate meets magic. How close is the map to real Tokyo City? Another question on many fans' minds is, will the game accurately replicate the city of Tokyo? Well, the game's creators claim that their version of Tokyo begins lifelike, but as you walk through the streets, you'll discover that they've merely taken all the city's greatest and coolest pieces and stitched them together, leaving out some of the boring, mundane things. One of the developers states, the crew walked around Tokyo to kind of list up the cool areas of the city, and started with some renowned sites. But we also started to think about what other wonderful things there are in Tokyo that aren't in this new metropolis, he explained. Things like government apartment complexes and, neighborhoods with simple, ordinary houses were left out. We decided to create a map that takes all the cool parts of Tokyo and condense them all together. Players of the game can expect an epic map and layout in the game, with graphics set to be out of this world. GhostWire Tokyo is part of the horror game genre. GhostWire Tokyo appears to be just as engrossed with Japanese horror as Tango's prior work, which is good news for horror aficionados. Tango's research of the genre appears to be evolving in GhostWire Tokyo, as the game now explores Japanese culture and urban stories through yokai and spirits. Many enemies inspired by Japanese legends, such as Kuchisaki Onna and Rokuro Kubi, have appeared in the video games thus far. GhostWire Tokyo appears to be just as engrossed with Japanese horror as Tango's prior work, which is good news for horror aficionados. With this, GhostWire Tokyo joins a minor subgenre of horror games based on folklore and stories, such as the Fatal Frame series and franchise like Ju-On, The Grudge, Ringu, and Junji Ito's works. Not only is this a Japanese horror genre that is rarely seen by mainstream audiences, but it also has been underrepresented in video games outside more esoteric franchises. In this way, GhostWire Tokyo has the potential to introduce a lesser-known aspect of of Japanese horror to the public while also expanding Tango's knowledge of the genre. It will certainly be interesting to see how the game turns out, but gamers who love horror games will surely not be disappointed. We thought it would only be right to share some other great horror games you need to play while we all eagerly await the drop of GhostWire Tokyo. Here are some great horror games you need to try out. Layers of Fear. Most games may make you jump and scream, but only a few can make you question yourself in real life. As you explore an eerie, creepy, empty house in Layers of Fear, it appears to be extremely familiar. While you're playing in the very beginning, an unidentified artist returns home. However, it quickly becomes evident that the painter has succumbed to madness. While playing this horror game, doors vanish and passageways warp out of form. The game rearranges itself in such a manner to reproduce the main character's craziness, making you question everything after only a few hours of playing. When you add in the nature of the protagonist's condition and an obsessional painting done from less than savory materials, you've got one of the best, most interesting horror games ever developed. Now, we have Resident Evil 7. Next up is probably one of the best horror games on the market. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard is one of the most horrifying games ever made, and a definite must-try if horror games are your thing. This game succeeded in retaining the spirit of what makes Resident Evil amazing, while presenting it in the first-person perspective. It may not appear to be a Resident Evil game at first, but after about an hour or two, everything begins to fall into place, particularly in the terror department. Mutated humans are the major antagonists, and they're even scarier than typical zombies because they're much more believable looking. Your tormentors, the Bakers, are delightfully subversive, and the basic premise is fantastic. Switching the action to first person provides some VR potential, but it also brings the terror closer to the player. This game is a must-try if you love everything horror in your video games. Next, we have Amnesia. Amnesia is one of the best survival horror game series of all time, with Amnesia: The Dark Descent, the first installment, proving to be one of the most scary games that we've ever played. Imagine that you're being pursued by a monster and have no way of defending yourself. All you can do is flee for your life, slamming a few doors in its face to slow it down at best. If you have the correct tools, you might be able to barricade yourself in, but you know that if you're caught, you're dead. That's the horrifying premise of Amnesia: The Dark Descent, a game that also eats away at your psyche if you spend too much time in the dark. The original game was released in 2010 and made solely for PC, but they have since made it possible to play on all kinds of consoles and updated the graphics to make for an even scarier, real-life visual game. And there you have it, everything you need to know about GhostWire Tokyo and the new details surrounding its upcoming release. Additionally, we touched upon a few other amazing horror games that you need to try while we wait for GhostWire to drop next week. Make sure to let us know your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss any of our new and upcoming content. Thanks for watching.